Good evening and welcome to the Ask Me Anything meeting for what is this, June of the TMUG Mac user group. Anybody have a question?
I think David has his hand
I
up.
have a question.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, this has to do with my wife and I have the same Apple ID, and she's been complaining because when she uses let's see, what is that app called where she looks at her rings?
Fitness.
Yeah, the fitness app. She keeps seeing my rings, and I'm going, and everything I've looked at on the Apple forum and what I could find on the internet basically says she needs to get a separate ID, Apple ID. And the concern I have is that, well, okay, if I do it, it looks like what they say when I follow the instructions on there is that I have to go to my Apple ID on her phone, delete it, uh, and then apply for a new Apple ID for her. When I delete my ID on there, I mean, all the devices I got on her phone that are shared right now with mine, do they only disappear on her phone? Uh,
What do you mean by devices?
well, when we have Find Mine and then you go to your Apple ID, you can see all the devices that are in your account. Uh, well, with her new ID, I would think it would just be her phone would show up, not
Okay,
the other devices, because
there's actually ways around that. So first thing you want to do is you sign out of your ID and you tell it not to keep any information. So it'll ask you whether you want to keep your contacts, your calendars, your um, count mail, whatever. Just say no. Keep nothing on that phone. Then create a new Apple ID, sign in for her. Then on your computer, you create a family. You add her to your family. Once you add her to your family, then when she goes to Find My, she'll see all the devices as if she was part of the family. So she'll see your devices and her devices. Um, as part of the family, she doesn't need to pay for apps or services that you pay for already. So if you're paying for Apple Fitness, she could use Apple Fitness at no extra charge.
now does uh, family sharing cost in addition to what I'm currently
Nope,
paying?
nothing. And a matter of fact, if you pay for extra storage, she could share that extra storage. So her photos are her photos, your photos are your photos, but it shares all the Apple services together.
Okay, but she will lose all the photos that are currently right now because it's all under my Apple ID. They won't be on her phone. Either
Well,
family sharing.
it doesn't normally what happens is it won't delete the photos. You'd have to manually tell it to delete the photos beforehand if you want to delete all your photos. And then when she takes new photos, they'll only be on her phone.
Okay.
And then you could create family albums. Then those will be shown on both phones. In your calendar, you'll have a new calendar called Family. So that if you put an event in there, it shows up on both phones. You could share contacts, you could share anything across your family. So
Okay.
there's absolutely no downsize as long as when you set it up, you're the organizer and she's an adult.
Yeah.
I've seen people, well, what if I don't want her as a administrator and they put them in as a kid? Then they just can't do anything.
Yeah. Okay. So in repeating that, then I just simply go to her phone, delete or sign out of my Apple ID on her phone.
Hmm.
And when it says, do you want to keep or not keep, choose not to keep anything that's on there,
Correct.
get her a new Apple ID, go through that process of getting an Apple ID. Once she has that new Apple ID, then I go back to my computer or my
Yep.
pad or phone.
It's easier on your computer. So
Okay,
you
then
go into your
go
system
create a
settings.
family.
Yeah. So on your Mac, if you go to system settings under the Apple ID up on top, you'll see where it says family sharing.
Okay,
Just click there and follow the prompts.
okay, good.
And if you run into any problems, email me.
Okay, sounds like a plan. We'll see what happens, and hopefully the world don't cave in on me. Thanks, thanks, guys.
Anybody else have anything?
I do. I'm presently still running Monterey, and I put off going to Ventura because I thought that there was a lot of hassle you had to go through setting up permissions for all your various and sundry apps. Was that a correct thought, or was I off base there?
You have to set some of them will some of your apps will have to be reinstalled, like if you have an antivirus. Um, some apps when you launch them, it'll tell you that you have to set permissions. But for the most part, it's fairly easy to do.
Yeah. Well, what's the basic steps you take to reset permissions?
It'll tell you it'll basically an app will turn on, like say you're using Carbon Copy Cloner. When you launch Carbon Copy Cloner, it'll come up with a window. It'll say, click here to open system preferences for disk permissions, drag this icon to this window, and then it'll say, great job. And
Okay.
it's done.
All right. So there's some steps to go through, but they're not all that not a big
No,
problem.
and the problem that they had at first was a lot of antivirus people said that their stuff didn't work under Ventura. It's because nobody had set up those permissions. So, like, if you use Sophos antivirus, you just got to reinstall it.
Yeah, I had to reinstall mine.
Yeah, and once you reinstall it, it'll set up the proper permissions.
But I got a phishing from it wasn't from Zoom, it was from Inc. Somebody, and they had my old password and my old credit card number, the last four digits, and they said that my account was delinquent and that I had to come up with another credit card. So I called Zoom, and after about a half hour, I was able to get the thing figured out with them. They had they had a newer credit card number, and so it was. I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but be careful. It looked awful. It was awful smooth, except that it didn't come from Zoom. It came from Inc. something.
Yeah, always got to be careful when anybody asks for credit card info online.
Yeah.
I didn't find the upgrading was particularly hard. I had trepidations just like you do, Logan. So I waited and waited, but eventually I bit and discovered that people had, as Kevin has said, the people who write the software had written a whole pot full of little help files and help pop-ups that said do this, do that, and every once in a while I get a pop-up from Carbon Copy Cloner that says I've got to reinstall the helper, but other than that, I'd say it's been very straightforward, especially given the fact that the level of security is higher.
Okay, I appreciate the input.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
So way back whenever it was, when iPhoto disappeared and photos came up, I saw on my photos on my Mac that I had a folder that said unable to upload. And I just never gave it a second thought and left it there because I could see those photos on my Mac. Anyway, one bright day I decided to do something with it. And so I exported the unable to upload to an outside folder on my Mac, and then I re-imported them. So I wasn't able to re-import them all, and I find that the number count of pictures on my Mac and on my iPad are not the same.
Yeah, and a lot of people have had problems with syncing on that. You have to make sure that when you go to photos, when you go to your main library, go to the very, very bottom, and it may say something like sync now or sync issues.
No,
Um,
don't have
if
that.
there's no warning, then usually it means just by restarting, it'll do it. But at the same time, I have had on my iPhone about 200 photos that were not in photos that were on my iPhone. And I was never able to get rid of them until I erased all settings and then resunk um, iTunes or photos back into it
You erased all settings where?
on my iPhone. So, in other words, I had about 200 photos on my iPhone that were old that I deleted, and I couldn't find them. When you go into your image, I think it's image capture, you could look at your iPhone and see how many photos are there. It showed a bunch of photos that were not in the photos library. It wouldn't let me delete them or do anything with those, but they counted as photos. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Only sort of.
So,
I never used image capture for anything like that. Never counted.
yeah, well, when you plug your phone in, image capture will count how many photos are in your phone. And if you list your photos, go by date, you may see some older photos from ages ago that you've deleted that for some reason there's remnants on your phone.
Okay. But otherwise, how to get sync? Like,
Well, that's just it. If you have some old photos that are just sitting on your phone like gremlins, the only ways to do that is to erase your phone and reset it up as new, and then that'll sync all the photos back over.
well, my problem is basically on my Mac. So I've got a folder that's called unable to upload with 885 photos. So if I look into the library,
Hmm.
I can those photos show up. But anyway, so for what I took I took the 885 photos, and exported them into a folder on my Mac, and then imported them back. But not all of them. Some of them couldn't be imported back, and
If they can't be imported back, they may be corrupt.
but they're visible. Well, no, everything that
Well,
I could look at. And
something is visible, but it's not
yeah,
necessarily right.
what's that?
I say some piece of detritus of information is visible, but just because a part of it is visible doesn't mean that the whole thing passes muster and is okay to import and
Right.
present to you.
And Tommy, when was the last time you tried a repair on your photo library?
I never have. How do I do that?
What you do is you hold down the Command and Option keys and then click on the photos icon in the dock. If it's not in the dock, you need to put it in the dock for this to work. And one thing it'll do, it'll hide all of your current apps and a window will pop up asking if you'd like to repair your photo library.
Command option?
Command Option.
Oh, that's what I need to do.
You know, that there's a kind of repair that is probably worth doing every year or two. What do you think, Kevin?
Usually I do it after a upgrade, like a major upgrade if something goes wrong or if something's not syncing right.
Yeah.
But it really depends on where your problem lies. It could be on your Mac, it could be on your iPhone. If it's on your Mac, and like he's having a problem where he's not able to see certain files or upload certain files, then a repair would work.
I can see them. I can see them, but I can't see them on another device.
Yeah, so something in your library is not seeing them properly. So doing a repair may fix that.
Okay, I'll work with that. Maybe then,
And just note, depending on how many photos you have, I've seen a repair take as many as 3 hours.
okay, because I've got hundreds of photos, thousands of photos, tens of thousands of photos.
And it may take a couple of hours. I had a client that had over 90,000, and it
And
took quite a bit.
okay, maybe then it'll sync properly then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Only one way to find out, and that's to give it a try.
I won't do it now.
I got a question for Kevin or the group. Ever since I installed Mac OS 14, I may have several windows open and several applications. It is the way I do things to click somewhere on the desktop to get to the Finder. But when I do that, all the windows disappear.
Oh, I hate that. You need to change that.
That's what I'm asking. Where do I go to change it? I
Okay.
couldn't find it.
Go into your system settings, then go to
Okay.
desktop and dock.
Desktop and dock.
You see where it says desktop and stage manager?
I do.
The second item down, click the drop down menu and select only in stage manager.
Only in. Thank you very much. It has been bugging me ever since I installed Mac OS 14.
That and that quick note in the bottom right hand corner is the two biggest complaints I get.
Okay. Okay. I haven't had a problem with Quick Note, but this changed the way that I normally do things. Oh, okay. I need to go to Finder, so I click on the desktop and all the windows go away.
Right. And click
And
again
they
and
come back
everything
as-
comes back.
Yeah. You can click on the
Yeah,
desktop
so
and they'll
the
come
way
back.
the way I get around it is I know it's there and I just double click to get to the desktop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, well, double click brings the windows back, but still doesn't put you on the desktop.
Yeah,
So
I just want to get to Finder. I know I can do it with Command Tab, but this is better. Thanks, Kevin.
I have an
You-
open case with where I've given up, but I made a quick note or had a couple of quick notes that wouldn't sync to my other devices.
it depends on where the quick note is. You have to make sure that you're putting your quick note in your iCloud folder.
Doesn't go into the Notes app.
And the Notes app, if you look at the Notes app on the top left next to the three, what I call the traffic light, if you click that, it'll show your notes. You'll have notes. Some things will be in iCloud. It'll be you'll have on my Mac or something like that, or other email services that you have. The ones that
I don't have
sync.
a traffic light.
Well, it's the red, yellow, green on the top left.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The close minimize.
To the right. To the right of that, there's an icon. Click on that.
Okay.
And you should
Excuse me.
you, you
Oh,
should only have iCloud and then one folder in iCloud. If there's anything else there with notes in it, the other notes will not sync.
okay with this. So I've got the traffic light, but I click on it and nothing happens.
To the icon on the right, to the right of it. It looks like a bookmark.
Finder window.
I've got
Yeah,
one.
find a window.
Okay, it's a list. It's got the list and the icons and then the trash can.
No, you went a
No,
little too far.
to the left of that.
Well, that just brings in the like on the Safari, it brings in the menu on the side with it.
Right, that's what you want. You want to look at the menu on the side. The only thing that you should have in that menu on the side is either iCloud with a folder called Notes and maybe something that says Shared. If you have anything else under there, under other email addresses, or if it says on my Mac or anything like that, then those notes do not sync.
Okay, so I've got quick notes, I've got shared, and then I've got everything else in iCloud. So how do I,
Okay, if everything else is in iCloud, then
except for the quick notes?
what was that?
Everything is in iCloud except the quick note and shared.
Then the quick notes, that what you need to do is you need to drag that up and put them inside of the iCloud.
How do I do that? I don't want to do that.
Hold on a second. Let me turn on my quick notes. I usually don't use that.
I stopped using it too.
Let's see here. Display desktop. Quick note. See if that works. There it goes. Test. And close that. And quick notes are there. Okay, quick notes apparently are machine specific.
Okay.
So if you want a quick note to be up on the cloud, you drag the note from the right-hand side and drag it over to where it says notes under iCloud. And that'll share that note.
Oh gosh. Nope. Doesn't let me drag it.
Well, you should be on the right-hand side. You'll see your note.
Okay.
Click on one of the notes and then drag it over to where it says notes under iCloud.
Ah. Okay. So
Now that note is on iCloud and you could share it and you can see it on all your devices.
I've got an unsolved case with Apple that they never came back about on just
Yeah.
that.
What I use instead of Quick Notes, I use a little app called Quick Draft, and I have it sitting in my dock. It opens up a little window. I can put my notes in it. I can close it. When I go to another Mac, I launch Quick Draft, and those notes are in there. And that's what I use for a quick note. I use the Notes application for actual notes and things that I want to save for long term.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Which program is the best program for enhancing photographs?
Um,
Photoshop.
well, define enhancing, Tom.
Well, I used to have, Photoshop used to have a program. It wasn't their full Photoshop. I can't remember the full name of it. It was Photoshop something, Deluxe or something. And
Elements, right?
what?
Photoshop Elements.
Yeah. And I used to use that all the time. It was very good. And I don't know, I lost it or something. And I'm just wondering, is there a better program than that? Does anybody have a program they really use and like very much?
Again, it depends on when you say enhance a photo. What do you mean by enhance it?
Clean it up, make it clear, I'll, in Photoshop Elements, I used to be able to do 4 or 5 things to the photograph.
Well, you can get Photoshop. It's a subscription. There's also a company called Topaz. They make a program called Photo AI that uses AI to enhance photos, and it does a really nice job.
What's it called? Sopad?
Topaz, Topaz.
Okay, Topaz.
And I forgot how much I paid for it. Let me see. Topaz Labs. It's topazlabs.com. And yeah, it was $200 for the license.
Is that for 1 year?
No, that's for the license. It's as long as you use the program.
Perpetual.
Yeah, but it's like well, no, I haven't had a problem because they upgraded last year to a new version, and I didn't have a problem upgrading.
Okay, thank you.
Another suggestion along those lines would be Affinity Photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're also good, and they're cheap. I think they're like 50 or 70 bucks now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
during COVID, they were only 25 bucks, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Affinity Photo just got reviewed by either Macworld Online or Apple Insider, and they liked it very much. Affinity Photo,
How do you spell that? AFF?
INITY.
Infinity.
Yeah,
Okay.
the name of the company is Serif.com, SERIF.
Yeah, they're over in England, and but they're still pretty easy to do business with. I own all 3 of their apps and recommend them.
In my experience as a Photoshop user, I think certainly since before I moved to Arizona,
Yeah.
Affinity Photo can do about 90% of what Photoshop can do. I still subscribe to Photoshop because I've used it for so many years. I know where everything is. And Infinity Photo, it has all those things, but they're not quite in the same place or named the same, or sometimes they spell it the English way, like color with a U, things like that. But it is a very good program.
And now the FTC is going after Adobe for their
Latest snafu.
for their rotten way of not telling people the extra expenses they're going to have to endure if they want to quit any of the programs.
And there was also something on the web about a week or 2 ago where a lot of people, especially businesses, are stopping to use Photoshop. They made everybody agree to a new terms of service, and one of the things in the terms of service, it states that they own all rights to
Everything,
all photography or anything used by Photoshop. So if
anything you create, they can use
Right.
however they want to.
including to license it to other people
Right.
without. So
Without your permission or recompense.
You've given your permission.
no,
And that's why
well,
I don't
yeah.
My
upload
understanding is that they've backed away from that. But
Mm.
No?
Not yet, no. And not just that, what they've done is they've turned off the Creative Cloud part. You know, Bob, how you used to save stuff on the cloud?
Yeah.
Not with them, I didn't.
Well, that's not even an option anymore. As soon as you open a file in Photoshop, it uploads it to their servers. And that's what people don't like. And then they have a right to use that file any way that they want.
Well, I don't use Creative Cloud. I don't use Lightroom that is connected to the cloud. I
Right.
only use Lightroom Classic.
It
So
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because the cloud service, the cloud storage that they used to give you, they took away from everybody. And then they're using those servers to store people's images. So when you open up something in Lightroom Classic, okay, it's being transferred to Adobe servers. Now, Adobe says they have all rights to that file. They could sell it, they could license it, they could sub-license it. And by you agreeing to use their software, you're giving them permission to do that.
I may do more with Affinity Photo.
A lot of people are, Disney is dropping Adobe.
I use an open source photo editing program called GIMP, G-I-M-P.
That takes a while to learn, though.
Yeah, there's all kinds of tutorials and stuff on the internet. If you got a specific task you want to do, you can usually find a tutorial.
The price is right, that's for sure.
Anybody else have any other issues?
Well, I have lots of issues, but maybe not for this group. At least that's what Gretchen tells me.
You know, Kevin, I was wondering about Apple stock. I mean, they've gone up like about $40 a share over the last month and a half.
I know.
Seem to be around this number where they like to split because they don't like their stock to be like over $200 each. So, what do you any thoughts on them splitting?
I think it's the jump was due to their introducing their new AI.
Right.
If it stays in that range for about a month, they may say they're going to split. But also in a month from now, it may drop, and there may just be that sudden peak, and then it may go down.
Also, the last time that Apple split, the share price was over $700.
And then it split 7 to 1.
7 to 1. Bring it down about $100 to $100.
All I know is I have no Apple stock, and when I wanted to buy it, I wasn't allowed.
I think they split. They did a 4-for-1, and I think it wasn't the stock about 200 and some odd dollars at that time.
It was like 400. They did a 4 to 1.
Yeah,
Then they did a 7 to 1. They've done a couple of 2 to 1s. I think it's like 34 times now what it was 25 years ago.
Yeah. I have already bought 3 new cars on their profits.
Yeah, well, when I was on Workman's Comp, I wanted to move my Radio Shack stock over to Apple. And I was told that if I do that, anything I get from my Radio Shack stock, I just have to give to the insurance company. So I wasn't allowed to sell. And by the time I got off of Workman's Comp, where I could do anything with my stock, Radio Shack went out of business. So I lost like 80 grand in stocks. And but if I would have converted that, I'd be like a multi-millionaire.
I have NVIDIA, and it just split 10 to 1.
Wow.
It was over 1,200, and now it's 134, and
it'll go up to 200-300.
Yeah. Oh, easy. And my neighbor has 2,200 shares of NVIDIA, and when it split it, he made $300,000 overnight.
You have to have money to make money.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, I don't.
you think this Apple intelligence AI, what they call AI, is going to stick around?
Who knows? It'll stick around, but at what level? Um, you know, it's all in its infancy right now.
Does anybody know anything about deep flakes?
About who?
Deep
Deep fakes.
flakes. Deep.
I know what
It's
deep
gonna.
fake you mean. FAKE.
Oh, deep.
Okay, it's been. Yeah, it's been called that.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
deep
where
flakes are a cereal.
yeah, it's where you're using AI to superimpose one person over another person's body, or you could create an image just by telling it what you want to do or a video.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are enough crooks out there so that they'll try and make money out of it, which means that the industry and the government are going to have to figure out a way to deal with it. And
Right.
so I wouldn't buy anything right now based on what you think it might do or might not do. My money would say sit tight. In a few years, it will be pretty obvious what the crooks are going to be able to get away with and what they're not going to be able to get away with it. At least you'll have solid insight and
Yeah.
can make good decisions.
Well, they've already made big bucks already on it, and I think they're going to use it during election time in their
Oh,
ad.
that's a given. Plus, you have to remember there's also Rule 34. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of that. I'm not going to go any further there. Um, but yeah, during the election, they're already saying that. I was watching MSNBC earlier, and they're claiming that every video that Fox News has displayed of Joe Biden over the last 6 months have been deep fakes. So you're already seeing it not being used, but being claimed to be used.
Is there a program that can detect when AI has been used?
From what I understand, for writing papers, there are programs that can detect whether a paper or an article was written using AI. But as far as videos and voice, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something I haven't delved into, and I'm kind of scared to.
Now there are some techniques for finding out, and a lot of it depends on access to the same AI that was used, or the same data set that was used to train that AI.
Yeah.
And there are so many of those are sitting around in people's back pockets that it's a real zoo, and that's why I suggest sit tight. Make sure you're protected.
And don't forget, the more personal information you have out there on the web, including, videos with your voice and images, the more AI could be used against you.
Yeah, yeah. So keep your info close to your chest.
Anybody else have any
I
questions?
have an interesting situation. The Apple email address that I've been using for years. About 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, when I tried to send an email out of the mail app, I got a message saying that I could not send from that address. So I could receive to that address, but I could not send from that address. And so I did a little research. I have two Apple IDs, and I just happened to look at my second Apple ID, and I found that email address under my second Apple ID.
I am certain that I did not put it there. It was not created there. That address was in effect long before I created that second Apple ID. And so I called Apple and they couldn't figure it out. We did all sorts of different things to try to add it back in, and it wouldn't let me add it in as a .mac address. It would let me add it in as an iCloud address, but I've got it as .mac in many, many places. So I'm waiting for.
It shouldn't matter, Roger. If it's listed, if it was original a .mac, when you go to appleid.apple.com, you log in with the @mac.com, it should show you that your Apple ID is in @mac.com.
Yeah, well, we did all that, and it still wouldn't let me add it as a .mac. So I'm waiting for a
And
call back from an engineer.
how old is that Apple ID?
The original Apple ID,
Yeah,
it's my
that's
original Apple ID. It's from, you know,
so when it used to be paid, was there ever a time that you stopped paying for it?
no,
So you paid for it throughout the Mobile Me transition and all that?
yes.
Hmm. That's the only thing I know of. I know people that have stopped paying for a year or so, and then they lost the @Mac, but then got the @Me, or didn't pay for Mobile Me and then got at iCloud when it became free.
Roger, I saw something online, I forget where, that Apple was having some problems with the older addresses. And what they meant by that was the .macs. Now, you might mention that when the engineer calls and see if there's any, traction on that point, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, they were supposed to call me back on Friday, and they emailed me on Thursday saying that they hadn't heard back from the engineer. So
Yeah, I had
they
a
were
separate
going to call me
Apple
back.
I had a separate Apple ID when I was working, and because I had a developer account with that, and it was paid for separately. Really dumb idea, because now Apple has no idea how to get rid of that other ID. So it's all right. As far as I know, they both know about each other. I mean, my addresses, I'm still me and the two IDs.
You could link them.
That's a thought. Yeah.
Go to appleid.apple.com on one of them and list the other as a verified email address, and then go to the other one at appleid.apple.com and then link the other as a verified email address.
Cross links.
And then when you sign into one on Apple device, it should be signing you into both at the same time. It's kind of a cool thing and flaky, and it's a backdoor. But I've seen people do that.
I wonder if it ever changes, they might both break.
Well, my developer account, for years was at kevin@mac.com, and then I moved it to a separate developer account. Then I let it lapse. And according to Apple, I'm still a developer, even though I haven't paid for it since, God, 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
Back when it was like expensive, like $2,500 a year to join.
Oh, really? Oh my, yeah.
Yeah, but you got a lot of perks with it.
I read an article online today that was talking about people who have gotten caught in scams involving cryptocurrency. Apparently, there is a gang, a Chinese gang operating out of Myanmar that get people hooked up with a person who says they're a friend and they need their help and so forth. And they wind up thinking that that's a real person from somewhere else other than the Southeast Asia area. And they wind up scamming the victim into investing in cryptocurrency accounts. And when the victim tries to get money out of that account, they find that they have not got an account, and every cent is gone. And one person wound up committing suicide because of that.
Ooh.
He thought he had an online girlfriend who was convincing him to invest in cryptocurrency, this, that, and the other things. Then the scam wound up taking this guy every cent the guy had. He even borrowed from his friends and his wife, and he wound up totally penniless and killed himself over it.
Wow.
The Chinese gang use people who have been kidnapped and forced to pretend that they're this, that, and the other person, and so forth. So it's a pretty big international problem now that a lot of police agencies can't do anything about, because the group operates out of Myanmar, across the border from Thailand. So they can't touch them in many cases.
There are a lot of lonely people on the web looking to connect. You just got to be very careful.
Kevin, I got another problem. Is there an easy way to get a file off of a copy of file from iCloud down to my iPhone? I want to do that.
Yeah, just you use the Files app.
Well, that's what I'm doing on the iPhone, but it's taking forever.
How big is the file?
Oh, it's an owner's manual for a car.
I use a program called Documents by Readle. The guys that make Spark.
Uh-huh.
I got that on my iPhone, and it'll access your iCloud docs as well, and move it from iCloud to locally, and then access it using that.
Okay. I could re-download it. I'm just thinking about that. I could go to the Nissan server and just re-download it on the iPhone.
Yeah, but if it's on files, it should work. The problem is it stays in the cloud. And using Documents, it's very easy to copy something from the cloud to your device.
I think I could also plug in the iPhone into the computer and just use it as an external drive, maybe manually.
What you do is, under your Finder, you click on your phone on the left, and on the right, you go to, hold on a second. It says applications or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then you find it. Again, I use Documents, so Documents show up in the list. It's called Files.
Uh-huh.
And you have to have an app that supports the files to move it over. So you need a program like Documents on your iPhone, and then you could drag it right into there from your computer.
Okay, good. I'll give it a shot. Great. Thank you.
Documents sounds like it is kind of an analog for Preview.
It lets you view Word documents, Excel documents, PDFs, music, video, just about anything.
Yeah.
And it used to be free. Now they have a paid tiered, but I don't even use the paid tier. I use the free tier on my iOS devices, and it works fine.
What's it called? Documents.
Documents. Just called Documents. The name of the company is Readle. Readdle.
Readdle is how I heard it said. That's another English outfit.
David, you had a question?
Yeah, I just went through and I got my wife's phone set up with her own Apple ID. Looks like everything works except the contacts under family sharing didn't show up. What am I missing?
Okay, so contacts are kind of tricky. Because with contacts, you could share contacts, but your contacts are your contacts, hers are hers. I've had people that are sharing them say, "Oh, I don't need this person in my contacts," and remove them, and then it'll remove it from your device. So
Okay.
what you could do is on your iPhone, I believe, hold on a second, go to settings. Let me see if it's in contacts. Give me a second. Yeah, go to contacts in the settings, and then you
Oh, in
could
settings, hold
add,
on. Let me get to settings. Okay, contacts. Okay,
then click on accounts,
okay.
add account, and then you could add your Apple ID, or does she have a Mac?
Yes.
On her Mac with her Apple ID in contacts, you could add, it's easier to add that way. You could
Okay.
add the contacts to hers, and it shows up as a separate group.
Okay.
Ah,
We'll try that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, it's time for our break. So we'll be back with our general meeting at 7 o'clock.
Cool.